This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Sahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellow Wall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 343 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Dortmund's 2-0 win against Arminia Bielefeld, and we will take a look at the upcoming Champions League game against FC Brugge. For all that and more joins me Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing?
I am quite tired, but other than that, I'm doing well. How are you, Stefan?
My lower back hurts because instead of preparing scrupulously for this podcast, I was busy building a kitchen island, and yesterday, pretty much all Sunday, we were still painting some walls in the house. So in other news, I feel a little bit knackered as well. So yeah, this should be a very fun episode then. But the good thing is there's so much excitement ahead of us now, like the game against Bielefeld. Oh wait, that wasn't the prettiest one, Matthias, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm awake. You said Bielefeld, and I mean, I didn't even know it still existed.
Yeah, Lars and I made the conscious decision to circumvent that little conspiracy theory. But I think we also got the 2-0 prediction correct, which in the end it was. So the episode title will most likely, usually I pick an episode title after the episode, but right now it's probably going to be called the Hummels Conundrum, just because we were talking about whether to rest him or not to rest him, and in this game he both showed that A, you can't really rest him because he's very important, and B, you really absolutely need to rest him or he'll pick up an injury. So that's a bit problematic, but Matthias, apart from Hummels playing and scoring 2 goals and then picking up an injury which may or may not rule him out for the upcoming 2 games or at least 1 game, a couple other things happened as well. Dortmund stuck with the back 4, but in midfield we had Bellingham and Delaney, if I'm not mistaken, and then we had Marco Reus up front and Julian Brandt on the number 10, as Erling Haaland got a rest or was also out with a knock or knee injury, according to the Dortmund accounts. So what did you make of this overall approach by the Black and Yellows and Mr. Favre, whose birthday is today? So happy birthday, Lulu.
I don't even know how to follow up after Lulu. No, I mean, yeah, I think we talked about it not too long ago that, Haaland needs a rest. And when he does get a rest, what then? Who jumps in, who plays that position? Marco Reus, probably the most logical, the most direct. He's the least likely player to then be in an advanced position and then hold up the ball, or not hold up the ball, but then slow it down and pass to someone else, but have a more direct eye for goal, but still not really an out-and-out striker, obviously. But it's the kind of match you look at Bielefeld and go, yeah, this is probably the kind of match you could do some of that stuff. I thought Bellingham and Delaney worked well together. Dahoud got a deserved rest. It's all a very weird sentence for me to say, but but I think overall it was okay. Bielefeld really didn't do much of anything. So, I mean, Dortmund now back-to-back having pretty uneventful, easy training session wins in the Bundesliga against Schalke and Bielefeld. I think it's not a stretch to say that that's not going to quite be the case next weekend. Or honestly, during the week against Brugge, and obviously we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it was kind of a meh game. I mean, Dortmund really didn't have to do much to win. They were clearly the better side. They created some good scoring opportunities already early, but didn't utilize them. I can think of one from Julian Brandt in particular. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a Arbeitssieg in the sense that Bielefeld really made Dortmund work for it. They didn't make, I mean, it was just kind of, yeah, okay, it was a game. Fine. You know, I mean, that's how I watched it live. I was kind of like, yeah, all right. So they won. Okay, next game.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess this is the takeaway here. I mean, it took a little for Dortmund to break Arminia down. I mean, you already mentioned the opportunities that Dortmund had. Manuel Akanji, I think, had a very good one at the far post after Bellingham cross first time into the box. And obviously, Mats Hummels had this outrageous Außenriss out of the boot pass to Jadon Sancho, who heads and then straight at Ortega. But yeah, I forgot to mention obviously that Felix Passlack and Torgan Hazard also started on Dortmund's left side. So that was also very helpful to give Gio Reyna and Rafael Guerrero a rest. But yeah, otherwise, it's very good to see that Dortmund rotate. And yeah, in the end, I am very happy that in recent games, Dortmund really are dangerous when it comes to set pieces. And obviously that was the case when Mats Hummels scored the corner. I think it was maybe slightly deflected by Thomas Meunier, and he's just sort of stumbled it over the line, but in the right position. And then obviously a couple of minutes later, I think almost 20 or so, a very fine header, which then was, I think, assisted by Marco Reus. Really good cross. So yeah, I'm in many ways very happy with this game. I mean, the expected goals is what you would expect from a game like this. It's 2.7 to Dortmund to 0.2 for Arminia Bielefeld. And I'm a little bit miffed. I have to say that Marcel Hartl got 2 shots on target because otherwise Dortmund would have gone 3 consecutive games without allowing a single shot on Bürki's frame. But I mean, the shots that Bürki had to save were really routine saves. They were threaded to keeper from distance. I don't really recall a chance where Bielefeld were even threatening in the slightest. And I think that's the highest praise you can give Dortmund in a run of 7 games within 22 days. And obviously a match where you have to rotate quite heavily and, you know, a team that doesn't really have anything to offer other than trying to be ultra defensive. And, Dortmund have slipped up in these games before, but this time they are very diligent, defend very well. They rotate the ball a lot. Is it something where you sit on the edge of the seat on the sofa or whatever? Probably not, but I don't think that's a game that really matters. It's just that you come away with 3 points and have a professional performance, because it's a type of game where Dortmund obviously do not overwhelm the opponent with oozing amounts of pressure, just because Dortmund right now are not in the setting to do that. So, this is where you do need the patience, as Lucien Favre often preaches, and then hope for the breakthrough. And when it comes like 8 minutes into the second half, should be good enough. And I was pretty sure that Dortmund would just put this game away at some point, and they did. And now they're in second place. And the next game is obviously Bayern. And thanks to Leipzig losing to Gladbach, now their Klassiker will be second against first. So that's a little excitement to look forward to. But back to the Bielefeld game, Matthias. We have already talked about this a little bit in the previous show, but again, Dortmund very mature now, very back 40 with Lucien Favre, obviously. Do you think this is the right approach for Lucien Favre to really get the most out of this team result-wise, even if it's not the easiest on the eyes?
I think so. I mean, talked about it last week, just in terms of the personnel at his disposal. I mean, what are you going to do? You don't have Can, you don't have Zagadou. If now Hummels, doesn't get to play one or both matches, God forbid, well then, I mean, you have no choice but to play a back 4. So now having played the back four now for a few matches. The team is more comfortable with it again. It doesn't feel as odd as it did during preseason. That's for sure. It definitely looks better than it did in preseason. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you got to do at the given time. Dortmund's opponent in the coming weekend, they're going to be without Süle because he has a positive COVID test. So
I didn't even know that yet.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things you kind of have to deal with in this very odd year and odd season that we're going to have. But it's good to know that there are options and that they could theoretically go to a back three eventually again. I would advise against it right now because you just don't have the players to do so. So continuing at the back four, I think is the right decision to do at this time. Passlack having played against Bielefeld, that lets me think that Guerrero will probably play against Brugge and Bayern, depending on fitness levels. So I think Favre is managing the side actually exceptionally well right now. I don't have any rotational issues. The results obviously help. I mean, if things don't go well, then, well, you can second guess it, but he's doing a good job right now, and he has to be credited for that.
Yeah, my point is also, we all know, we've discussed this at length before, that Lucien Favre is very unlikely to keep his job at Dortmund beyond this season, unless obviously something big happens where he wins the title, the Bundesliga or the Champions League or something like that. So that's obviously not extremely likely to happen given how great Bayern are this year again, sadly. And so Dortmund playing like this is still maybe the best way for them to get these results. And yes, obviously Bielefeld are a team that Dortmund maybe put away if they play a little bit differently. But, this feels like, very Dortmund playing a bit on the slow burn, if that makes sense. So, yeah, there's not too many things to bicker about here. The only thing that really annoys me is obviously the Mats Hummels injury. Do you think he just got too greedy as he was on a hat-trick when he took that shot to try to make it 3-0? Because I think the extension of his leg, which looked a bit more like Street Fighter than a footballer, maybe this is where he got the pull in the hamstring. I think he said after the game that he felt more of a pull than a sting, so it should not be too bad. So there's hope that he might win the race against time for Wednesday. I don't know if he has traveled with the team to Bruges, but I assume that he won't make this game, and I think he's very touch and go for the Bayern game. Maybe Dortmund are lucky, but I'm actually not holding my breath. And obviously, this is a huge blow. Because if anything, this game really underscored how great Mats Hummels is and what kind of form he is. And before the injury occurred, I was already a bit anxious on Twitter, which is probably not warranted, but that in this form, he might actually be called up to the national team and doesn't get the 2 weeks of rest, which are very helpful for a guy like Hummels right now. But then I realized that Thomas Müller is, playing quite amazingly the past year, and he hasn't received his call back to the national team. But yeah, I think Mats Hummels right now, the way he plays is in a very commanding way, really, is on his A game right now. And yeah, for the way Dortmund play, it's absolutely crucial because he just kills so many could be chances and situations with his way of reading the game. I really do wonder what happens when you take him out of this side. And this, to me, really is the big problem for Favre, because taking a player like Hummels out of a back three or a back four right now is really a struggle. So if we look forward to the Bruges game, Matthias, do you think that Dortmund will keep the back four? And if Hummels is out, who would replace him? Would it be Delaney, or do you think there will be a switch to back three, then include Piszczek? I don't know if Emre Can will test negative or not. I think the last thing I read about him was that he still was symptomatic.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't know. I think if you put together a back three putting Delaney and Piszczek in there with Akanji then probably needing to play centrally because he's the only defender. Gosh, that would be really risky in my opinion, even though, Delaney and Piszczek are fantastic and true warriors in the side. It would be too much of a risk in my opinion. So if you're going to do a center back pairing, then you almost kind of have to move Akanji to the left and put Piszczek in there, because at least Piszczek has played it a few more times than Delaney. I'm glad I'm not in Favre's shoes right now, because this is a difficult one to pick. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I don't think Favre's going to go away from the back four. I think it's 4-2-3-1 for the foreseeable future. So if we take that as a given, then the most likely scenario will be Akanji and Piszczek, in my opinion. Unless he's really worried about pace, but even then, Piszczek isn't that slow. He's still faster than Hummels when it comes to pace. So that's probably the most likely scenario. I don't see Favre going to a back three after now having a few good results and performances with a back four.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, off the bench came, I think, Piszczek for Hummels, so that sort of maybe answers it a little bit, but who knows what they do in the meantime. I mean, it's not like there's an awful lot of time to train on a training ground and prepare for the Bruges game. I mean, it's probably just more about recuperation at this point. So, which is so absolutely crucial that Dortmund, in a way, are a well-oiled machine yet. That is maybe not in the sense of them playing the absolute best attacking football. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. The players often are still way too centrally and clogging up the middle, and the combination play isn't as quick as it probably needs to be, especially in the first half. Again, against Bielefeld, you had players taking 2, 3, 4 touches instead of trying to play 1-2s. In the second half, that immediately changed after the break. They immediately played much faster, and so you can see that Dortmund can up the ante if they feel like they have to, but too long and too often they feel like they don't have to. So yeah, I mean, it's also the case that when you have this many games on a string, that usually you need a while to find your groove in a game, and it's usually the second half where you can play a little faster. I know it might be a little against common logic that it's almost like you are less fatigued in the second half of a game, but that's often how it is in football. So we also maybe need to put this into account when criticizing that kind of style of play. And obviously, space is also open against teams that defend in such a low block as the game progresses. So but now I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, I mean, it's really great that Dortmund's defensive shape right now is where it probably needs to be, because as of now, they are the best defense in the Bundesliga with just 2 goals conceded. I think VfL Wolfsburg are not far behind. They have 3, if I remember correctly. I haven't checked the score of their Sunday match, to be honest. It's a little awkward, but anyway, Dortmund have the best Bundesliga defense. Now, to take this with a little bit of grain of salt, Dortmund also had the best defense in 2017, 2018, and that was obviously the Bosch year. So things turned sour quite quickly there, but I would say this, under Peter Bosch, after 6 match days, Dortmund had only 1 goal against, but right now, even though they have 2 goals against and both came against Augsburg, I will say that this does not look like they're getting overrun in every game and just riding their luck. And I think this is the big difference. So
yeah, it's way more controlled.
Yeah. So this is a very mature Dortmund team right now, especially from a defensive standpoint, and considering how high the rotation is sometimes, and or all the time at this moment, really, and how many changes there are to the back line. I mean, you have Paslak now, and obviously to the defensive midfield as well. This is a real positive, and probably as good as it can be. Maybe there's even room for improvement in that regard. But having watched Dortmund for quite a long time, this sort of consistency over 4 or 5 games is not bad. Obviously, the Lazio game sticks out like a sore thumb here, but overall, this is pretty pleasing. So yeah, I don't even want to jinx it, especially ahead of Bruges and Bayern, where they will probably get a little bit more tested than in the last 3 games, where against Schalke and Bielefeld, we have to keep it in perspective. These are not the sort of teams that can really threaten Dortmund. So we'll see about their real defensive prowess, in the next week. But nevertheless, credit where it's due. And now we look forward to the game in Bruges, Matthias. I have to say, this is probably a very crucial one. If you want to get a win on the road, it's either Zenit or this one. Dortmund already managed to beat Bruges a couple years ago. What are you expecting of this one, especially in the context of Dortmund having to play Bayern next?
Well, I mean, Favre will probably rest a few players that he feels like he can afford to rest. I don't know if Haaland will be one of those players or not. It might be worth starting with someone other than Haaland against Brugge, knowing that Bayern are next. I don't know much about Brugge. They don't show a lot of Belgian football on TV here. Just an on-paper analysis. They've been playing a 3-5-2 for quite a few weeks now. They're surprisingly only 4th in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, which is below their expectations. They did beat Hannes Wolf's Genk side just before Wolf got sacked again. But overall, the last 5 matches, they've only managed 1 win. That was against Zenit. And they lost once against Leuven, which was kind of surprising. And then 3 draws, including the draw against Lazio. And that's the ticket right there, is they have that draw against Lazio, which obviously Dortmund were not able to produce. So the pressure is definitely on Dortmund and not on Brugge in this one, because Brugge are right now in the driver's seat for at least a Europa League finish, which would be great for them. They don't have expectations to beat Dortmund, but Dortmund have to beat Brugge. If they cannot beat Brugge, I'm even saying a draw would not be a good result. This is definitely a must-win 3-point victory type scenario. It doesn't have to be pretty, but with the fixture congestion, how can you expect that? I would rather energy, though, come against Bayern, because that could really be a catalyst one way or another for the tone for the rest of at least the first half of the season. But this is incredibly important. Timing-wise, is it better to have Brugge than Lazio before Bayern? Of course. But from the little bit of Brugge that I've seen, at least in the Champions League, they're not bad. They're decently coached, or well coached at least. But I don't know that much about them, aside from the fact that ex-football manager wonder kid Balanta is at least in the squad. He doesn't really play. He's played 4 times out of 11 matches this season and scored 1 goal. But other than that, I'm not your Brugge expert for sure.
Yeah, I mean, right now, they are the Pot 4 team, and obviously if you are Borussia Dortmund, unless it's a free group of death kind of scenario, you sort of expect them to beat the Pot 4 team twice in the Champions League. And in Group F, now the pressure is on a little, especially with that loss away to Lazio. So you are absolutely right in that regard. And I mean, Dortmund can beat Bruges. It's obvious. And there's a little pressure. I mean, Lucien Favre said himself after the game against Zenit that he felt the pressure. And I think it's still on there because Dortmund need that Champions League money, and progressing to the round of 16 obviously helps. And right now Bruges are in second place in Group F, and Dortmund are now third. Obviously, Zenit are last. So this is very interesting. Also, it's kind of interesting that the Champions League stays sort of on your mind the entire time, because there's a game now every week instead of having like a 2-week or 3-week break in between group matches or so, because everything is more condensed right now. What I can say about Bruges is that they press very well collectively. I've already seen this against Zenit and a little bit against Lazio. I haven't seen too many stretches of the Lazio game. Obviously, you don't press over 90 minutes, but more in phases. But when you say well coached, I think from what I can glean, I would agree with that. And who scored at least tells me that they're very good at scoring direct free kicks and creating scoring chances, and are very good at defending set pieces and stuff like that. And apparently they are very heavy attacking down the wing, which makes sense if they play with the 3-5-2 system. So we'll see about them and their let's say aerial prowess, which this team obviously has, and I think helped them a little bit of containing Zenit. And from what I've seen against Lazio, it's obviously not a game, I will say this right away, where Dortmund, like they did away to Rome, where they just try to, punt 15 high crosses into the box and hope that Haaland or someone makes contact with it. Because be it Brandt, Royce or Sancho, I don't think any of these dudes is really great at heading the ball. Gio Reyna can probably also improve in that department, even though he's pretty tall and should be good at headers. But this is a skill that's sometimes a bit underdeveloped at when it comes to Dortmund midfielders. I'm not going to lie. So I wonder how Dortmund will break this down, because I think Bruges will be very much up for it. And I also think that they will press Dortmund a little bit higher up the field than we could expect of Zenit or Schalke or Bielefeld for that matter. So I assume that Dortmund will be put under a little bit more stress, and then I hope their ball circulation holds up a bit better. And obviously without Hummels in that build-up phase especially, Dortmund might need to punt the ball a little bit more often themselves, so it would be absolutely crucial for them to have Haaland, who has improved when it comes to dealing with these long balls, but obviously you need to be accurate with that or he can't do anything about it. So this really is a nice little test for Dortmund ahead of Bayern, and I just really, really pray that nobody gets injured in the midweek game or so, or contracts COVID or whatever, because these are the risks obviously that are now all around us and always on my mind as there's the next game and could always be the last game. So I don't know what else to make of this game, Matthias. If you have anything other to say, maybe highlight an individual player. Obviously, I've seen that Mignolet is playing for them in goal, and that's Hans Van Aken has scored 5 goals and 4 assists so far for them. But it's not like I know much more than you about Bruges. I tried to get some guys on here from Bruges, but the problem is right now I am so short on time that I just can't find any guests on a very short notice. So I apologize, but I hope it'll be better soon.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, of course, Belgium as a country right now is dealing with some more major COVID issues. I just know that they're locking down more and more and more. So that's the one thing to kind of keep an eye on. But other than that, I don't have any great additional insight, which is kind of a bummer. Just because, the Bielefeld match was so, not a lot to talk about there. And now we got Brugge, where it's like, in theory, there's some interesting stuff to talk about. But, it's just, we're not very Belgian football focused. Yeah, no, I don't have any greater insight that I wouldn't be completely pulling out of my ass at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if is it pronounced Jupiler or Jupiler or Jupiler? The beer.
I think it's Jupiler.
Jupiler.
I think so.
The beer that sponsors the Belgian.
But I may be totally wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I've
I've never even tried the beer, so I have no idea.
But I've been to Bruges and it's absolutely gorgeous, especially in the fall. So please, if you ever get out of lockdown, I can only recommend it. It's just a gorgeous old little town, I guess, or city. And I mean the stadium is obviously not right in the middle of it, but the old city part of Bruges is just is very dreamy. So
I'm a fan of Belgium in general. Been there a few times, and it's a nice country. I recommend it when it's not in total lockdown. So maybe in 2021. ... Question mark.
Yeah, I like that. Instead of having anything to say about the game, we're out here giving travel advice.
Well, I mean, come on. Anyway, prediction. Given our in-depth analysis and insight, I think it's time to give complete wild-ass guess / deeply thought out scoreline predictions, don't you, Stefan?
Yeah, totally. We actually haven't even discussed who will play up front for Dortmund. Not the Haaland situation, but like the entire midfield. But if you don't, if you want to skip that, we can also just go to predictions.
No, I mean it's basically who didn't play against Bielefeld.
So would it be Witsel and Dahoud in midfield? Is this what you expect?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Bellingham again.
We have hardly mentioned him. He had such a great game against Bielefeld.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to see him against Brugge. I think pairing him up with Delaney, it's kind of like pairing Dahoud up with Delaney, in the sense of Delaney is just such a workhorse that he allows. I mean, granted, Bellingham doesn't shy away from work. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, he's 17 years old. He's a kid, and he can use that veteran presence next to him, whereas Dahoud needs just that shield at times. I think Delaney is one of those guys where Favre just has to tell him you can't play, otherwise he will just play all the time.
Okay, so let me interrupt you right there. If we talk about Delaney and Witsel right now, I have to be honest, I absolutely want Delaney in the Bayern game over Witsel right now.
Absolutely.
So in that context,
I was going to say the same thing.
Exactly, but so in that context, would you play him against Bruges, or would you say, rest him, or do you think the rest against Bielefeld was enough?
I think I would honestly, playing against a Belgian side, throw in the Belgian player, Axel Witsel. I want to say Witsel played for Standard Liège, but I'm not 100% sure. Again, I'm an absolute Belgian football
I think
expert.
You're correct.
So I mean, there's a little bit of something there. So yeah, it may not be a bad one to play Witsel and Bellingham, and then against Bayern, can't believe I'm going to say this. You play Delaney and Dahoud. If you're going on form and building up experience and building up confidence, I think that may not be a bad strategy, to be honest.
Yeah, obviously with Delaney getting rest against Bielefeld, I meant him being subbed off in the 82nd minute for Witsel.
No, I know what you meant. That's why I had a little bit of a laugh. Everyone had a little bit of a rest against Bielefeld, except Hummels.
Yeah, no, he got a 4-minute rest. But yeah, I don't know if we'll see Gio Reyna in there or Torgan Hazard, who obviously is also Belgian. If we want to make the connection there too. So yeah, we'll see how it works out, to be honest. Jadon Sancho, I think right now is upping his form again. So I think playing him a little bit more makes sense, just for him to keep his rhythm. I don't think he's a player that right now needs the rest. And obviously Marco Reus you can throw him in for a half hour or for a whole half, and the same with Julian Brandt. Especially ahead of Bayern, I would probably not play either of them for the full 90 minutes, just because they will need the full freshness, if that makes sense, and recuperation for that game. And I would like to have both of them at 100%. So, if you play Haaland for the full 90 minutes or so, then you can share Royce and Brandt as a number 10 for, 45 minutes or 50, 40, something like that. And then, if the game is decided early, you can then take Haaland off and put Hazard up front or Hanier or whatever. And even if Dortmund then lose their firepower, I think, you really need to think about the Bayern game, because it's right now, it's a big game for Dortmund. They have a big chance to, get 3 points and take the top of the Bundesliga table. So, the old looking from game to game is all nice and well, but we all know that this is more of a line these people say rather than adhering to it, because otherwise Favre wouldn't be rotating as much as he is right now, but rather try to pick the best lineup. But I think he does it too in the context of upcoming games. So why shouldn't we? So, yeah. But all that being said, Matthias, I do think it's going to be Piszczek at center back next to Akanji, and then we'll probably have Meunier and Guerrero doing the fullback duty, and then maybe Witzel and Dahoud or Witzel and Bellingham and something like that. And yeah, we'll see. So my prediction is...
I do like your shout, by the way, of having Reina play. And yes, I will continue to call him Reina because I just think it's funny.
But you're not calling him Gio Reina?
Yeah, that's even funnier. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him and just seeing what he can do. Start him from the beginning and reevaluate at halftime. Give him a good, solid run out, and you can always adjust then.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, right now, as Haaland likes to say, Dortmund have one thing going for them.
Good teams win on bad days.
So with that in mind, my prediction is 3 Dortmund, 1 Bruges. What's yours?
I'm going to go a 2-1 victory for Dortmund. And yeah, I agree with you that Brugge will score. They've kind of proven it. They score in almost every single match, so I think they will here as well.
Yeah, I think it's also going to be a fight for 90 minutes. And like I said earlier, the game might be pre-decided, but I honestly don't believe that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be a thrill, let's put it this way, until stoppage time or end of stoppage time. And I really do wonder if Dortmund show a different Champions League road phase this time, because they have a lot, they have to make amends really for previous road performances. So this is also for them something where they have to show a little bit more character and anyway, and obviously you want the boost of the success going into the Bayern game, and not enter the weekend of yet another Champions League loss and so on and so forth, and especially come under more pressure. So anywho, Matthias, thank you for coming on after I was busy building kitchen islands and painting stuff, and you were busy doing work stuff and being a dad. So please tell our listeners where to follow you on the Twitter.
Well, since I haven't been in Twitter jail for almost a week, you can find me on Twitter at Matthias Hug.
Very nice. And you can find me at Stefan Butzko on Twitter. So far, not in Twitter jail, but I think once you're verified, it's a bit harder to achieve. So they just tell you off if you infringe DFL copyrights. But anywho, you can follow all of us at Yellowwallpod on Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to subscribe to the show, please do that via YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Our written content is theyellowwall.net if you want to sponsor an episode or contribute financially. then go to patreon.com/theyellowwall for more information. Or if you have another question, just hit or shoot us an email at yellowwallpod@gmail.com. And that should be it for today. We shall be back with the preview of the Bayern game and obviously a review of the Bruges game on Thursday. So until then, as always, thank you for listening and goodbye. Should I have mentioned that Schalke are still without a win? Oh well, maybe next time.